Who's this Jimmy?
Jimmy Lewis.
Who are you talking about? Jimmy something? Jimmy Witherspoon?
Nobody knew who he was.
Lewis.
Jimmy.
Who's this Jimmy?
Lewis.
Jimmy.
Who's this Jimmy?
Jimmy Lewis.
Who's this Jimmy?
Lewis.
Who's this Jimmy?
Lewis. 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 Jimmy Lewis. Lewis. Jimmy Lewis. 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 Jimmy Lewis. Lewis. Jimmy Lewis. Lewis.
It just kept on going.
Okay, welcome to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. It's Tuesday, Not necessarily tacos, because I forgot. It's weird because it's light outside, the time change, which kind of snuck up on me. I think it snuck up on me last week too. And I just was doing stuff and I forgot to go get tacos. Usually it gets dark and then things kind of wind down a little bit. But yeah, Text Talk Taco Tuesday. I think we're at 276, show 276. We're doing this live from the shop tonight. I've got the people on the Instagrams on my phone right there. I'm going to hang up on them in a second. And now the Shabs Goy says, do you mix dairy with meat? I wonder if this is the same guy that that was starting the politics on the show last time. I don't know. But anyways, episode 275, this is brought to you by Yamaha. Yamaha makes awesome motorcycles. In fact, that's my WR250 right there. I tore it apart to steal some parts for my 450, which is over there, so I could go race it because it had a dry brake tank on it, and I used some of the plastic. I just swapped some stuff around. And that was 2 weeks ago, and it's still sitting there because I've been riding Husabergs. As you can see over here, it's a whole nother problem. I'll get into that. And so if you have questions about Husabergs or Yamahas, maybe Hondas, KTMs, I can answer 9 out of 10 without referring to a reference manual. And when I do, I go to an expert source. In fact, if somebody reminds me, I'll tell the story about one of my first jobs at Dirt Bike Magazine where I was an intern, what I had to do. So there we go. This is the shop. That's or I could work on stuff right there if I needed to. We could fix some things. I got some stuff staged up if I need to. Here's the questions in the chat that you answer. And Michael Close says, thanks for the climb code, Jimmy. I just ordered some more cool gear, including the new Dakar pants. Climb is also another fine sponsor of this show. They are releasing some brand new, I think I'm allowed to talk about this, brand new XC Light gear. I got the jersey. I don't know if it's a prototype jersey or it's an early release. And perfect timing, 92 degrees here. In fact, I looked at one of my thermometers and it said 117 because it was in the sun. So it got pretty toasty today. Didn't ride today, rode yesterday and the day before with that jersey on. And it's got some interesting, the technical fabrics that Climb uses, a lot of companies use them, and Climb's really on the forward edge of that. Pretty cool to have a company like that support us. And so if you're looking, and that XC Light gear is not cheap, but it's really good. So kind of like all their gear, just super durable. If I was a guy that would tear my jersey on bushes and stuff, I probably wouldn't spend that kind of money, but I don't. So I do. I wear the good stuff. So if you have any questions about things, let me know. Sometimes I have discount codes from some of our sponsors, but you got to let me know what specifically you're getting. You got to put some effort into it, and hopefully I can help you out in some way. So, do you baby powder your underwear crotch area on a hot day? It's a good question. No. But you can come over and do it for me, shabby guy. And it is St. Patrick's Day, and I got some green. And I'm drinking a purple drink. Purple bubbly stuff. So there we go. If I need to, I have some tequila I could get into over there, but that's not necessary. And Ryan Hanna says, I do. What does that mean? Are we getting proposed? Okay, so all you people on the Instagram, J Speed Shop ADV, I remember you. I have your trailer over there. I still use that every once in a while. Anyways, the guy that's complaining says I can't pronounce his name right. The Shabo, hyphonetically spell it, please. That would help me out. Not really. I just butcher names on this show. And I usually have a co-host that helps me do it even worse. So anyhow, you can check out up in the corner, which is right up there. Those are a lot of the sponsors that support the show. Companies like Fasst Company, Bulletproof Designs, Scott's Performance, a lot of different ones that do help us out here. So if you need something, sometimes there's discount codes. Sometimes. Okay. Anyways, I'm not Googling anything right now. And Decker Nielsen says roost. Do you have a rooster endo tonight? Good question. Rooster endo brought to you by Taco Moto. This is Taco Moto right here. Taco Moto brings you rooster endo. But you could have won. Decker, you could have won rooster endo because nobody else submitted. And if one person submits, it's only one, they won. So yeah, that's what you get for being lazy. So Ryan Hanna, baby powders for the long days. You know, we used to have this stuff called monkey butt powder. Speaking of that somebody sent to one of the magazines that they wanted me to try. I just didn't feel like I needed to put any more dust into my clothes back then when I was desert racing. So Decker's already won. Well, thanks for being honest. That's always good. Okay, I'm hanging up on you guys. Wow, the Shabo's Goy has a real motorcycle question. He says, how often do you change your trans oil on a two-stroke? And I'm waiting for him to come back with a follow-up to that because I think there's probably something funky going on there. I change it when it needs to be changed. So if you want it on hours, it depends on the bike. And I don't really know on hours because I do it by two things. So in all honesty, been doing this stuff for a long time. Don't ask how long. But if I notice a change in the shifting or a change in the clutch feel, like how the clutch is engaging, how the clutch is working, then for sure I change it. Okay? I change it pretty quick in break-in. So when the bike's brand new, I'll probably change it, after a ride. So maybe 1 or 2 hours, the first two changes. Then I can let it go up to 20, 30 hours, depending on how hard I am on the bike. Whether it sees a lot of moisture, like is it going through water crossings? Is there a chance for moisture to get in there? Am I abusive on the clutch? Is the shifting quality going down? Things like this. This is how you decide when to change it. And a lot of people don't have that feel. Then just go by what the manual says. But how often do I change it? I just explained it. So there we go. All 9 million of you, I'm hanging up on the Instagrams. We will see you out on the trail, or you can just go over to the YouTube Dirt Bike Test channel, and or you can go to the Facebook channel, and I'm going to just let you look at a Husaberg real quick. That's what they usually look like over there, kind of torn apart, not working, but there's one that actually works, and good on you. See ya. Okay, and now, done with Instagram. Now I got to share this thing as a reel or something like that. Okay, do we have any other questions? Mark Callan does, I think. Good evening, Jimmy. I used to have a 2009 FE 570. Great bike. I was going to say great bike before he even wrote that, but good. But the subframe fuel tank and lack of options for a bigger tank eventually led me to selling it. What do you do for extra fuel? Well, on the Husabergs, that's it. The subframe fuel tank thing. I have 3 of those particular 570s. 2 of them have the tank on it. The third one also had the tank, but it started leaking. I was having a lot of problems with the connection on that tank, so I just took it off and threw the stock one back on. So what do? I don't ride those bikes longer than the fuel range. I have plenty of other bikes that'll go the fuel distance that I need, and then I carry around these gas bags, which I will show you here in a second, right after I do my homework here. What is it? I said it was 276. Show 276. Why the heck would I do this show that many times? I don't know. Okay. There we go. I'm sure somebody will call. Probably my wife will call and wonder what I'm doing, even though it's Tuesday night and she should know this by now. So I'll show you the bag. I got it right over here. It's easy to do. So they're hanging right here. So here's here's my go-to for extra fuel. And these are available from Giant Loop. And I think they're under kind of like a sub name right now. They're called something a little bit different, but they are Giant Loop makes these. They're a gallon. They have straps. I strap them onto my Climb Knack Pack, which is sitting right over there as well. And that's what I do for extra gas. A lot of times when we're testing stock bikes that don't have big tanks, we ride in places where we need extra fuel. And Armadillo bags. Perfect. Thank you. I should have remembered the name, but I don't just forget people's names. I forget product names as well. So yes, those are the go-tos for that. And it works on any bike. So that's the answer to that particular question. Okay, so no Rooster Endo tonight. That'll save me about 20 minutes of talking shit on someone's motorcycle. We can look at some things. I got some, so a couple interesting things that I had come up this week, scrolling through the socials, was a video of a guy using a zip tie to pull his chain back together. Like he was putting a chain on the bike, and it was kind of looked like it kind of wouldn't hold because the sprocket was kind of small. And this was like, it looked like it was shot in India or something like that. And so I'm like going, okay, what's he gonna do? I thought maybe he was gonna, the very first thing I saw him thumbing a zip tie through a chain, I go, he's not gonna try to ride that. I have done it with wire before. I've had a Masterlink brake, and we wired a chain back together, and it worked for a while, but mostly going downhill. The minute it put any sort of a load on it, it popped. But so I was going, oh, maybe he's got some. So then he goes and puts the Masterlink clip on there, and then proceeds to put the clip on backwards. And so I'm going, okay, so this guy's trying to give you some sort of helpful tip, and then he goes and does the stupidest thing you can do. If you put your Masterlink clip on so that the opening on it is going backwards, it's going to touch something and pop off very quickly. One thing I learned from factory mechanics, really good factory mechanics, is some of these guys will never spin the wheel backwards on their race bike, just so something like this doesn't happen. Like the wheel only goes one direction, forward, and they're particular about it. So you'll never see them like lubing the chain and spinning the wheel backwards. It's always done forwards. So high level stuff, what do you do it the right way? I'm not that picky. I'll spin a wheel backwards all day long. But if if you're taught like this is the way to do it, and this is so we don't have any failures or mistakes, that's one of the things that you can do. Another interesting, what was the second thing I saw? It was some guys trying to get a bike over a small like metal trail. It was a thing probably so you're not supposed to go riding there, and they were taking a bike over this thing, and it was like, how many guys does it take to get the bike over the stuff where you would, I guess if you wanted to, just imagine if there was a pipe that was elevated 20 inches off the ground, and of course he hops the front wheel up, and then it goes down between the wheel and the cases, and if it were a 2-stroke he would have just destroyed his pipe. But it was a 4-stroke, so he's probably just smashed the header. And then it was like at that point you would maybe use some traction to elevate the front wheel. But no, all of his buddies come and they start trying to lift it. And by the time there's 6 guys, they picked it up and threw it over the thing. And you're like, why? Especially if you're riding someplace that's illegal. Why would you even post that either? So there we go. Okay, we've got a lot of people in the chat. If you are in the chat and you have the opportunity, the ability, let me know where you're chatting in from. And if you do have any questions, yeah, Ryan, I'm sorry I'm not in my other, Ryan Hanna, he did the artwork in one of my other studios. He painted a really cool picture of a scene, a kind of a scene of a few bikes sitting on top of a sand dune. You'll notice it from some of the other episodes. It's up in my other studio. But yeah, good to see you out there. Hope you're still riding. He was just a kid. I remember I met his mom through my running club, and she did not want him to ride motorcycles, and I talked her out of that idea. He did some cool stuff. Okay, everybody's probably out drinking green tequila. That's what you do on St. Patrick's Day, I suspect. So no Roosterendo. So everybody wants to know, like, my name is Jimmy, and I'm a Hoosabergaholic. What you see behind me is my current. Well, it's like kind of it's not really a problem. I guess it is a problem if you admit it. No, it's not a problem. Well, I got that one. That one's kind of like I did a trade. I was going to trade for that one, and then I just traded the guy money for it. And this is one I've had for a while. This is my old one. This is a Swedish built 2002. Actually, I just took another part of it off, and it was an old factory race bike. And when I pulled because it stopped making sparks. It does not run anymore. We had to pull start it a couple times, and you could pull start it, and then we were riding it, and it kind of cut out a couple times, and then it just stopped. And I could tell it was electrical. And so I towed it back, did the tow of shame. We towed a Husaberg with a Husaberg. And of course, like all Husabergs, the Husaberg that was towing decided that the clutch master cylinder was going to go out, like right when we started to start towing. And so we had a real Husaberg problem. There isn't any video of this. There could have been like a video because it was my wife towing me on her. We were riding his and hers Husabergs like we do. But I got away unvideoed. Got it back here, so we put those Husabergs away and took out and went rode some other Husabergs because that's what you do when you are a Husabergaholic. So Sean Bailey says, "Can I see my questions above?" No, Sean, I'm sorry I can't. I'm looking on the chat here right now, and it might be a little bit slow, but anyways, it's working now. I can see your question right now. Dave Donnelly says, "Do you own any Vor or Vertimani bikes?" And the answer is no. I'm so lucky that I don't own one of those because I can only imagine the pain of not being able to get parts. kind of like this one. But so today I popped the ignition cover off just to see what was inside of there. And it's interesting because it has an SEM ignition and it has a 2-position ignition switch, something I'd never seen before. But when I pulled that ignition out, it had a lot of work done to it. It had been modified inside. It has all this red. It almost looks like silicone, but it was a plastic that they had encased something else in there. I think that might have been part of that 2-stage ignition, which basically just changes the timing, a switch on the bars. And it doesn't need it. I mean, it's got so much stinking power, but you can turn it and then all of a sudden it gets even kind of more. Probably won't run for very long. Well, it doesn't really run for very long right now, but it probably runs for less time if you flip that switch. So I'm trying to see what the problem is. Maybe I just have to change out the ignition. I used to have a lot of those laying around, and I've got to go upstairs and look in some boxes and see what I've got. So that's the Husaberg problem behind me. Yeah, it's got the Bing on it. It's full on. It's got some pretty cool stuff on that bike, and riding it is pretty amazing. I actually had a very well-known fast off-road racer ride one of those things, and he came back and said, "I'm kind of blown away by how good that bike does certain things." And what's crazy is they have about an inch more suspension travel than current bikes. They've freaking lots of power. I talk about it all the time. I don't have a bell here. I'd ring it right now. And it's a 550, and that one's a 650, and the other one's a 650, and the 570s are off the chart. Some of the best four-stroke single motors ever made. And if you wonder how KTM got so good at their four strokes, they just copied those. So now you know. Anyways, let's see. Happy Tech Talk Taco Tuesday plus a 15 Mark Daniels. Yes, I don't know if I'm gonna have any tonight. I could. There's the in the shop right now. There's this. This is actually a pretty good tequila. Actually, I'll throw it up on the screen right here. Watch this. I can go to here and show you what we got right here. We got the Arlette. There's no L. Artite tequila. Yeah. And I got it from my friends that I hooked them up with Tim Morton to go on a Baja ride, and they sent me this as a gift. So that's what we could be drinking tonight if it comes down to it. You just never know what's going on in the shop. So there's a chat. I got another question here. B Mecco says, I was listening to the RJ interview by Gypsy Tales, and Rick mentioned you as one of the main guys doing legit off-road on large bore adventure bikes. Nice props from a legend. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I like RJ. Man, that guy, he's a hustler. He's out doing all kinds of different stuff. I actually ran into him out at the Mint, said hi, and I wanted to talk to him, and then he's disappeared. He's probably announcing or something. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I know Rick keeps telling me he wants to come out and do my training, but I kind of retired, so can't do that. And the whole large bike, there's no such thing as large bike legit off-road training. The only thing I'm probably different is that I don't try to claim that I can ride those things faster or better than you, or you even should do it. Like all of the, when you see this kind of adventure bike kind of racing, guys doing crazy stuff on those things, that's best left to professionals or people that are like daredevils that want to make Insta reels. No bad vibes to someone like a Paul Torres. There's a whole bunch of guys. I just saw a top motocross guy from a few years back out doing big motocross jumps on a KTM, and I'm like, okay, if you do it with the high level that this guy was doing, and it's not a problem. But the minute some guy that doesn't know what he's doing jumps on that and lands wrong, then they break in half and they crush. And if they get sideways, game over. So, yeah, be careful with what you wish for. And there's the neighbors out there trying to do burnouts. You know, we used to have the wheelie boys that they knew we did this show here, so they'd drive up. Maybe the wheelie boys are old enough to have a truck now with no muffler. Good times. So remove Trump, U9V, says, you've been into these strange bikes for a while. No, I've never been into strange bikes. Not one bit. I just have always had a very open mind when it comes to motorcycles, and I will ride anything. Kind of like what you see Carson Brown doing. That was me before there was internets and stuff like that, and you could show everybody what you're doing. I was out riding my mini bikes, my XR 100 build things. If I could, and a lot of these weird bikes, you know, a friend would have something that would break, or it was just something I'd never seen before, and I always wanted to ride different things. But some of them I figure out what they're good at, and it just fits what I like doing. And I like a lot of horsepower. I like really good running motorcycles. I don't care what kind they are. And those yellow ones in the back, they're no Yamahas. By the way, Yamaha sponsors this show. If you have any questions and I answer them. That's because Yamaha helps us out and allows us to put stuff up on Dirt Bike Test. Real good, honest reviews. So, Tion Neon says, always enjoyed your reviews. Even better seeing a guy in his garage working on bikes with booze. I haven't had any booze yet tonight, but give me a chance, okay? So, booze was one of the reasons that they were able to get rid of me at Dirt Rider magazine. Yep, because I actually had beer in my office, and I don't care when we would get done with putting out a magazine, or we would sit around the shop and I'd crack a beer. And so that's the way I like to do it. And I've been doing it for a long time. And it was just funny how all of a sudden it became an issue when I had a different boss that didn't like booze. So John Perkins, let's see. We've got a question. I know John. John's been a co-host in the show before. I know you are a blue bike guy these days, but why are there no reviews of the 2023 KTM 300 XC anyplace? It was an all-new bike for 23, but shy of the first impressions and videos and write-ups, it does not look like anyone did a real test on these bikes. I know DBT did one the following year's XCW, but nothing on the XC. Was there something that happened during that time in testing that kept the outlets from doing anything with them? There was a supply issue. There was a supply issue going on at that time. And they were selling every single one of, especially the XCWs, not so much of the XCs. And I don't remember it was 23 or 24. You know, it was kind of like it was the end of that COVID times when there was so little stuff and so much of certain things and so little of others. So they weren't exactly offering the bikes up that they were selling so easily. And it's just kind of like, why take a bike that a dealer could sell and give it to some media donkey to do a test? So I think the 24 is really similar, and and I don't remember. Yeah, I don't know if I actually ever rode that generation of XC. I think I might have. I think I might have rode some clients' bikes, but never. And yes, I was fired. Now I was fired from Dirt Rider. Dirt Rider had to. How did they? I don't remember what they did. how I was fired though. They let me go, and my services were obviously no longer needed, and you could chart the trajectory of that magazine since I left. So, because it was by far and away the world's largest dirt bike magazine, and they fixed it by getting rid of me. And then whatever happened to Don Canay? So whoever removed Trump is somebody that knows the history from back when I was at Cycle World magazine. And I don't know what happened to Don. I know he was doing a lot of the promoting of the super moto races. I believe when a lot of this magazines buying and selling each other's and combining and stuff like that, I know he was riding mostly the dyno for Cycle World magazine, and then they probably found someone younger and less expensive to do that. In fact, I know they did. And I think he moved back up to Northern California. But other than that, I have not stayed in touch, and I don't know. He was our road test editor, and I really enjoyed working with Don because he had the same kind of just, it's the bike. You know, there was no influence from advertisers or anything like that on the way that he tested. He was about as analytical and methodical with the testing, especially. He got mad at me one day because I was the shop guy, and sometimes I could photo model on some of the road racing bikes. I wasn't that fast on the bike overall, and not fast enough to be used for lap times when they were really trying to push the bikes to the limit. So they would be doing lap times, and I remember I hopped on one of the bikes and I didn't realize it wasn't done with its cycle, and I went and put a few laps on the tires. And in road racing, it's all tires, so you can degrade a tire by putting it through a heat cycle. And he got pissed off at me for doing that. And I mean, by all rights, he should have. So yeah, but that's how serious he took his testing. He knew that me going out for a few laps was could potentially affect the way that bike worked. So, anyways, John Perkins has a follow-up. He should have one sometime this week. Okay, so John, why don't you come here and sell a couple of my bikes? I trust the DBT 24 XCW test enough to buy one. Might have to find some hard trails this week. Well, the fact that it's 1,000,000 degrees out, it's a perfect time to go hard enduro riding, and I have a couple new ones for you. So just let me know. I might be up for it. I've got some 300s here that, I would take my Yamahas, but I don't want to scratch them. Okay. Let's see what else we got. I was going to show, so in the tease for this, I opened up one of my high mileage KTM 500 clutch. The clutch actually started to feel a little bit funny. And it's one of the ones I don't have a recluse in, which is strange because I have recluses in a lot of my bikes. It was feeling a little bit funny. I noticed a small change. So I go, I'll check the fluid to see what it is. I opened it up and the fluid was the color of rust. It was bad. There was a lot of contamination inside of this. And I don't know why, but also I've seen a few other people, that are in my social feeds have been doing posts on fluid changes. And so I was going to talk a little bit about this stuff. So what happened? Well, it was on the clutch of a KTM and it was on the Brembo one. So the top of that is vented, it's a reservoir, so it has to be vented. So somehow moisture is getting into that system, and it does. And so especially now that it's been cool and then it warms up, when I pulled that cap off, I lifted the cap off, and then the rubber gasket that stays inside of the reservoir, between the cap there was droplets of water. And technically, that shouldn't get through that rubber down in there, but it can, and it does. And it can also come in through the seals on the piston, and there's lots of ways for it to seep in there. But so it was in there, and the water, turned the fluid a little bit rusty color, and it wasn't good. So, phew. So got the pollen's out too. So got the allergies going on. So anyways, what I did is like, okay, I know that there's a ton of bad fluid in this system now, and it needs to be drained out. And I'm going to do it the simplest way, the easiest way I possibly can. I don't want to take anything off the bike. I want to do it the kind of the best way. So what I did was I took paper towels and I used those to absorb all of the fluid out of the reservoir. So very first thing, cleaned it all out. Then I took brake cleaner and cleaned it out as much as I could with brake cleaner and kind of wiped it down. And so at this point, there is no fluid in there, and it's relatively clean. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to get the job done. I mean, if it was working as well as it did, as dirty as it was, this is better. So now I go and get new fluid and fill it right back up to the top. Then I go down and I crack the line. So on the KTM, it's on top of the slave unit. So I crack that and I just let it start gravity feeding down. So now instead of having to push all of the bad fluid through, I've got all the bad fluid that's on top out. And now I have this new fluid that's pushing its way down. And I, down there I have a paper towel and I'm collecting it, and it's brown and it's bad. And I keep collecting it until it gets to the point where it's clear, it's clean coming out down there. Okay, then I shut it off. And then now the whole line has clean fluid in it. But the piston at the slave unit for sure has bad fluid in it. And so now if I pump it, you got to kind of think about this. If I squeeze it, it's going to push new fluid down in there. And then when I open it, the bad fluid that is now combined with the new fluid is going to go up out of that thing. And so bad fluid comes out. So now I'm going to do kind of what we'll call more standard bleeding technique, to where I would compress the lever, open the bleed valve, because now it's pushed in. The pressure from the piston, when the pressure is relieved, the piston pushes that bad fluid out. And so now I'm pumping only new down past that point. Because if I ever release the lever, well, you don't want to because air will get in there, but that's the secondary. But if I don't release that lever, only new fluids go down there. So you go down there, it pushes the old out, and so now you keep doing it until only clean fluid comes out. And you have effectively replaced all of the bad fluid. Because I see some people, they just pour it in and they start pumping. Now you're mixing all that bad fluid in there. You want to get the majority of it out. So aside from a complete flush, and even if I were to take a back bleeder, which I have, and hook it up to that thing and pump it in there, it's still on both sides, and it'll take a long time for it to get down there. So the system I just use is simple, requires no special tools, and it just takes a little bit of time. So I cleaned out the whole thing, and then I went and wrote it and checked it out. It was all good, and opened the cap up, and it was really clean. It did a really good job at doing it. If I were trying to do it like top flight, I would have taken all the parts apart and cleaned it and maybe put new seals in and all this stuff like that. But it's working fine. It'll keep working fine. That bike's going to go do a peninsula run in not too long, and I'm not worried one bit. So, you know, the lesson is, out here we don't really have that much humidity, so this kind of problem isn't as prevalent as is places where you're in really moist environments. And especially when you're on a brake system that has extreme temperature changes, you know, when that gets really hot and then it cools down, it's going to suck some moisture in there. So I have a sort of a frequent brake bleeding, and certain bikes like KTM's aren't as good as like the Japanese brands, the ones with the Nissans and stuff like that. It seems like the Nissans seal just a little bit better, but it's not a bad idea to put the fluid replacement on the agenda every once in a while. And then the same, so if it were a front brake, so on that bike, there was no problem with the brakes, but I said, well, I've got the brake fluid out, might as well just do the other two. So when I do the brakes, typically, it's a little bit different procedure, but you can kind of use the same theory. Because I do a lot of back bleeding of brakes. So I'll actually compress the caliper to force the fluid all the way back up, you know, to get air out of the lines. I do that on a pretty regular basis with bikes, because you'd be blown away by how much your performance will improve just by getting some of those, you know, kind of small bubbles that might be trapped in the system someplace squeezed out. But if I would do the same thing if I found bad fluid. I don't want to, you know, I want to take all the bad fluid I can out of the top, get it out of there, and then start letting the regular fluid gravity down. So the front brake's like that. The rear brake doesn't work as well with gravity. You kind of have to, you know, manipulate it by pumping it. But a lot of times if I'm going to start, the first thing I do is I compress the pistons on the caliper to get all the fluid back out and suck as much of that stuff out of it. And then I start pumping the new stuff into the system. On the clutch, unless you actually take it off, it's hard to back bleed that piston. So I let the thing I do. So somebody, JNMXGP, is calling fake news. Did I do any news? Let's see. Tion something says, GD, fired for having a beer after work. That's cool you shared that. New management always tries swinging their ding dong around and wonder why good employees leave. My odd handle here is tie one on. Okay, yeah. I mean, we were being responsible. I mean, there was never time. And it's funny because in that same shop, there was the car magazines. They would have VIP events in there, and they'd set up a bar. So, but it was kind of like the little guy that did. He got me for they got me for like 5 or 6 things, but that was the one. That was the one. There was a beer drinking on a trail ride. I think I got in trouble for that too. I don't remember. I used to go into the HR lady and she would just shake her head because she knew, because I had been the boss before. She knew I knew the game they were playing, and that's what it is. Rhett Walter 2255 says, "What are you doing?" Well, right now I'm sitting here having a bubbly drink and talking about motorcycle and motorcycle related products. My name is Jimmy Lewis. I'm the host of this show. I am a washed up former motorcycle racer. Used to work at magazines when they had magazines, and I'm not AI. Although I asked AI what I should do on this show, and it just said cancel it. So, and Cooper Luke says lots of blue in the background. No, it's yellow, Cooper. That's Husaberg. Well, it's blue and yellow, but the yellow part's off the bike. And they don't work. So, okay, moving right along, because this show has all kinds of special segments that aren't sponsored by companies. We just do what we want around here. That was my how to back bleed brakes, clean your brake system. It's a good time to do that, everybody. Check your brakes, because you don't want to not have brakes or a clutch. So, and one thing I did is, so the Husaberg, like I said earlier, that clutch slave unit went out. I'm going to go over here and see if I can. So I went, and luckily I had it in stock. This is an all balls rebuild kit. And that one, and so these are actually the used parts. I'll go ahead and do this on the screen here. So this is, so I save a lot of stuff because you never know, especially on Husabergs, when you're going to be able to get stuff. Good thing is this crosses over from KTM. So the bolts I didn't use, but here is this is the root cause of the problem, was essentially this seal, this O-ring right here, was allowing some leakage to go by it. And so if I ever have to use this again, I could probably get another O-ring for this guy. This portion, this is the compression seal, where this is when it's forcing it down. It's at an angle. It will allow it. And so the one that I put in had 2 seals that were kind of more like this one, which has that pressure seal around the lip. And this is just an O-ring, where the one that came with all balls kit had not an O-ring but 2 pressure seals. So anyways, this will go up in the shop. But if you ever wonder what goes bad inside, and it's really all it is a circlip that holds everything in, together. There's a spring behind it, and there's just a snap ring, this particular snap ring that holds everything, and it was like a 10-minute job. So don't be afraid of that stuff. All works. I got to put it in here so I can put it back in my index so I remember where everything's at. So that's what's going on. Are you thirsty? Okay. Back to the regular scheduled programming. More questions. Let's see. What kind of bikes do you have? Yeah, got a lot of bikes. Good thing, Rhett. Keep asking questions, because the more questions, with 54 million viewers watching right now, you're just making me money by asking those awesome questions. The front wheel on that Berg looks like a taco. Like it has a taco in it? It does have a taco in it. I don't think it had it when I got it, and I don't remember doing it, but this one other fast guy rode it, but he didn't remember doing it either. But he was riding it in some gnarly rock. So yes, that's the year. So this is a KTM made Husaberg, and I promise you, they put all the soft Excel rims on these bikes. That rim, when I first looked at it, it looked like it was going to break. You could see where the weld is, and yeah, that's a taco. We'll have to do something about that. I got good company. You know, speaking of wheels, I could actually use some bulletproof design wheels like this one. So Bulletproof Design helps us out with the show. This is one of their wheels. This thing now has 4 full Peninsula runs on it, and it has no tacos on it, which is amazing. And I tightened the spokes one time after, the first day or something like that. I went in with my Fasst Company spoke torque wrench, this boy right here, this bad boy right here, this thing, this guy. I went in with this guy, not this one actually. It's a different one. I went in with this guy, clipped on there, made sure all the spoke torque was tight. This is a very, very nice tool. This is what factory mechanics use. I have a torque wrench in here, in this wrist, but this is a really good tool to have in case of that. So just so you know, but I could probably throw that wheel right there on that bike, and then it wouldn't be tacoed, but then it'd be black, and I have to find a black back. Actually, I run mixed colors on my bikes too. So there we have it. Yeah, so anybody in the chat, where are you at? Like I said, we're not doing Taco Moto's Roosterendo this week because nobody submitted. You could have won. How do you submit for Roosterendo? That is a segment of the show where we, whoever's in here with me and you, we take a picture of the bike that you send us, by the way. You tell us the year, make, and model of that bike, and then we talk about it. We discuss maybe the mods you've done. We discuss sometimes where you took the picture. We look at your bike, and we tell you whether your bike roosts or endos. And if it roosts or endos, doesn't matter. The one that gives us the most enjoyment during that segment of the show gets a $100 gift certificate from Taco Moto. That's tacomoto.co, by the way. Wait, Ace. Uh-oh. You might be right. I went back and looked at my emails, Ace, because you texted it to me, and then I think you emailed it to the wrong email. Let me look real quick. I'm going to look at my emails because I went back. You did. You went to my other email address. And so when I went and looked, it wasn't there. At least on my Jimmy at Dirtbike Test, because that's where you sent it to. If you want to enter this contest, send it to jimmy@dirtbiketest.com. And you were right. You did submit a bike. You texted it to me during the show. And I told you to email it to me, which you did, but you emailed it to the wrong email, and I missed it. Cheers to me. I am kind of an idiot. I had to explain that to people last week at one of our advisory board meetings for the kids motocross track out here last week. And she got mad because I said, lady, I'm an idiot. You got to explain some of these things to me. Okay. Gary Drummond says, do you have any experience with a Sierra 450 RL? I think I need one. Yes, I do have a lot of experience with a Sierra 450 RL. And I don't know if I need one. I wish Yamaha would make a dual sport bike. Don't we all? So what specifically are you looking for? So there is a review, definitely a couple of reviews on www.dirtbiketest.com. You can go there and search Sierra 450 RL, and I guarantee you a review or a test will come up of some sort. We did the first years they were kind of around. We did a whole bunch of stuff, and they haven't changed. So nothing has really changed with that bike. I see Johnny Campbell here all the time. He's got a really nice one that he takes down to Baja and he rides all over the place on. So there's definitely ways that you can modify that bike to make it really into anything that you want. Like all the emissions compliant bikes, you have to jump through some hoops, and for sure the Honda a little bit more than some of the other ones. But yeah, you got questions? Give me an answer. I can kind of remember some of that stuff, but everything I really think was written down or recorded. We actually did some episodes of Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, almost specifically dedicated to that bike, if I remember correctly, in this shop. I think we did one where we had put a recluse clutch, because one of the biggest complaints for me on that bike was kind of it was just kind of the engagement of the clutch combined with the snappy low end power. And so we were trying to do some of that, solving that. So two wheels off-road moto. That's a big thing. I'm thinking about racing the vintage pre-95 class in District 37. What's your favorite off-road bike from the 80s and 90s? 80s to 90s. I really started desert racing in the 90s. So I'm wondering what my favorite bike was. Probably, like, for me, YZ125. This is Selma, the cat. She is showing everybody how much she likes you by showing her butt, because that's what she does. Hi, Selma. How you doing? That's Tech Talk Taco Tuesday that you're interrupting. Pretty good? Okay. I know you're jealous. Everybody else is getting my attention. Okay. You're just going to sit right on top of the tools and the nuts and bolts and knock them off with your tail. Perfect. Shop cat. So back then I was racing YZ125 quite a bit. Then I moved over to, in 90, I became a KTM factory rider, and that 125 was an absolute rocket ship. So fast compared to all the other ones at the time. It would still be fast today compared to 125s. 6-speed gearbox, wide ratio gearbox. Pretty cool. So I think I'm down with the 125s back in the day. Kawasaki, I used to race against a bunch of guys in the Kawasaki's. They like them. You have to move yourself. Oh, you don't want to leave, do you? There you go. There we go. Go sit on a Husaberg. So Ace says cheers. He's not too pissed off. I'm pretty sure he's going to send it to the Jimmy at Dirt Bike Test to enter next week's Rooster Endo with his 2006 KTM 525 XC. I just sold one of those not too long ago. That was a good year, but the 525 was just a little too much for that engine. Yeah, the 500s became much better bikes. And Jamie Livingston says, hey, Jimmy, I had a death wobble on my 24 KTM 500. It scared the poop. He says, what causes this? Okay, you caused it. Everybody loves my answers, and then they go, Jimmy, you're such a dick. No, you caused it. You got on the bike and you rode it. So you made that bike do the death wobble. Is there a setup or something on that bike that helped you get that death wobble? So that what caused the death wobble, and whether that's from the front of the bike, the rear bike, there's 1,000 things it could be that could cause this. But basically what happened is you were not in perfect balance and you started going one way, and then it or you corrected and you guys got in a fight. So ultimately, you're not being perfectly imbalanced is what caused that, or the surface that you were riding on caused the bike to do that, and you were out of balance, and then it went like this. Because a lot of times, riders, what they do is they're putting so much weight in the handlebars, they're using their energy in the bars that they become like a shock absorber, and their body articulates and And because they won't let the bars do what they want to do, which is center itself back up, it's really not what you think. But it can go through an oscillation and then get to a point where you can't fix it. Like, the shaking. Now the bike is doing something on its own, but it took something to get there. So number one, a lot of death wobbles are caused by riders not knowing what balance is and what balance feels like. You're using momentum to mask the thing, and now the momentum is starting to take over. So problem number one. So what can cause this? 100 things, like I said. The most typical is having too high of a rear ride height, or too low of a front ride height. And so I especially see this on bikes that guys have not set the sag on, or they've tried to lower them in some weird way without doing it properly, and it puts the bike in a weird geometry, and it can put a lot of weight up on the front. And I've seen it even when you lower the back down, it does the same thing. Bikes are designed to operate within a window, and if you get it outside of that window, that problem becomes much more prevalent, regardless of what you are doing. Okay, you can make it better or worse, but the setup can also amplify it to a certain thing. So, check the manual, check the ride height. I've seen low tire pressures cause it. I have seen dragging front brakes cause this. I've seen lots of different things happen, but typically the most common situation is that it's a slightly improperly set up bike amplified by a rider who is not super aware of kind of balance. Like, this is what we like to call it in the training terminology. Well, at least I do. Most people just say, oh, it's your bike and you need to get a steering stabilizer. Steering stabilizer never hurt, but it actually isn't going to cure that problem. It's going to postpone it and make it worse when it happens. So if you have anything, and the KTM is Austrian for death wobble, no, it's not. You want a death wobble, you should get on one of these Husabergs and go really, really fast, and then chop the throttle with all that suspension. There's a lot of yaw, and it can do, like, the old, like, Hondas were notorious back in the day for head shake, we called it. Not necessarily death wobble, but there's a lot of different things. I actually did a video, it's someplace, where there was a certain year BMW, one of the 1200s or something like that, the one that had cruise control. It was the first year of cruise control. And there were journalists. They were journalists. They were horrible riders, but they were journalists, and they were allowed to go to these BMW intros. And a couple of them got chucked off the motorcycle. Actually, one of them got killed. I had ridden with some of these different guys, and so I was aware of their ability and stuff like that. And usually they had a little bit too much testosterone and too much of an ego, and they usually got themselves in a little bit over their head. But someone started talking about head shake or death wobble, and it took off like fury around this bike. And then, of course, a guy getting killed, and they said it was from death wobble or head shake, didn't help anything. So I did a video where I took that bike out, and I did it on pavement, I did it on dirt. I got the thing going 60 or 70 miles an hour, took my hands off the handlebars, and I whacked them. Just hit the handlebars. And the bike went and straightened back out. My hands were off the handlebars when it happened. And so when I was doing this, I was wearing like a GoPro, and I'm whacking the handlebars, and I was doing it. I was sitting in different parts on the bike, and you could actually see, and mostly on dirt. On the pavement, it straightened right back out very quick. But I mean, I'm hitting it pretty hard. And if it was an inherently unstable motorcycle, it would continue to do it. But I was very balanced. If I had been out of balance, then I would have got shooken off and probably fallen off the back of the motorcycle. But I did it on dirt, and I did it in sitting in different places. I sat in the normal seat, and I sat way back in the passenger seat. And so I was changing the attitude of the bike, but every time it would maybe once, twice, 3 times, and then center itself back up. So especially at speed, bikes, there's so much inertia and stuff like that, it generally tries to fix itself. It's when you get in the fight with it. So if it goes one way, or you hit a little rock and it goes like this and it shakes you, and then you go like this, and then we start doing this. So yeah, that's how it starts, and then how it goes from there. Let's see. Jesse G8920 says, do you think Cody Webb can influence Yamaha to make a good dual sport? I saw he was setting up a bike for himself, and he had mentioned trying to talk Yamaha into making a production version. We've been trying to tell Yamaha this for a long time. There is something in Yamaha's DNA that says that they cannot produce kind of what KTM and what Honda, which are two completely different ways of doing a dual sport bike. KTM takes the competition bike and literally adds on the necessary things to make it street legal, in their opinion. Honda takes something that looks like a competition bike and re-engineers everything to make it street legal, in their opinion. And I think what a lot of times we don't understand is that every market in every different country has different requirements and different things. So there are some countries where you can get a WR that is street legal, not in the United States. They are very cautious about releasing WRs, which are sold as a EPA compliant off-road bike in California because of regulations. And it passes the sound. For sure, it passes the emissions, with the exception of the evaporative emissions. So if you put it into a sensor room, it's going to make too many carbon thingies that's going to set off an alarm, and they don't want to get fined. It's like a $10,000 per unit. So I don't know that Cody Webb can influence that any more than a lot of other people. I know there's people at Yamaha that they're enthusiasts just like this. They know how good of a bike that WR, that YZ-based bike could be. But you see it when they made that older WR250. I think they called it a WR250R. It was its whole own bike because they have some durability and emissions and sound, and they have standards or they interpret the standards and they build this bike to it. They don't take the off-road bike and make it. They make a whole another one. The WR125 is another example. They have a TTR125. You would think, we can just slap some stuff on it, it becomes a WR125. Nope, that bike is its whole own unique thing. And I need to get one so that I can smoke Trevor Hunter in some kind of a race. Yeah, so I don't know, San Felipe Bob is 1994. Oh, they're talking about the best bike from the 80s, the KDX 200, the WR250R. So Bob says WR250R. He's talking about the YZ250 two-stroke based WR that Yamaha made. They put a big gas tank, an 18-inch rear wheel, a kickstand. They kind of did what the European brands were doing, was making an off-road competition bike. Wide ratio transmission, that's what WR stood for. Okay. Jamie is getting back to his thing. I was going in a straight line and he gunned it up to 70 miles an hour. Okay. Straight line, gun it to 70 miles, and it started head shaking. Were you on dirt or pavement? Let's see. Spokes. Tight is right. That's correct. Mikey Burton. He's late, but he made it to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. Thank you, Mikey. Let's see. Jamie, totally my fault. I lowered the front forks because somebody said it would be better in the tighter wood sections. Okay. So now we're getting somewhere. How much did you lower? I'm curious. I'm curious how many millimeters did you lower them? Because a lot of times on those bikes, and it depends on which one you have, KTM 500, a lot of them have adjustable spring preload. Just taking a little bit of spring preload out is enough to do that. But it shouldn't. It'd take a pretty big change to make it that dramatic. Let's see. Another question from John Perkins. Speaking of Cody Webb, I should get Cody back on the show. He came on once before. What are the chances he is using Fantic technology in his YZs to get more off-road modern features? I think 0. Fantic is its own brand. They use Yamaha things, but I don't think. I mean, I imagine he's had a look at those things, but he seems to be pretty committed to getting getting the Yamahas to work as, kind of as Yamahas. When I heard they hired him and also Caleb Russell, I really thought that there was going to be some announcements shortly after that about some new bikes, and that didn't happen. Didn't say much about it, but yeah. Hard packed dirt road is where the head shake occurred. Okay. Yeah. How many millimeters did you lower it? Like 2 lines, 3 lines, which is like 15 millimeters, which is huge. When we make front fork changes, we do like 2 and 3 millimeters, just for reference. Okay. 1 line down on the top of the fork. So on those forks, I think there's 2 lines, if I'm not mistaken, and stock is usually at the first line, or at least that's where I run them, is at the first line or slightly down. So my forks will be pushed down, so I'm actually getting the front to ride just a little bit higher. So yeah, that's not enough to really cause that kind of a thing. And then also, so 1 line down, what's your sag set at? Like, what is your rear sag at? And are you I'm going to guess you're a lighter fellow, potentially. Let's see. Scarlet Fire says, I lowered my WR250R front by 1 inch and it was undrivable, but at 3/4 inch, it felt great. Amazing that much of a difference it made. Yeah, 1 inch is crazy to lower. I mean, if you lower them both down, if you're lowering front and rear the same, it kind of most of the time acts the same. They get more stable as the bikes get lower, because when they lower, technically the wheelbase typically gets a little bit longer, and so they usually don't turn as good, but a lot of times they do go straight. And B Mecco says it seems like Cody kind of gave up on the 2 strokes and looks like he's mostly competing on the 250 and or 450F. I think he likes the electric start, because a lot of what they're doing is at such low RPM where the bike's prone to stalling. And when you stall in some of those situations, you need to be able to light that thing up in a millisecond with the electric starter so bad things don't happen. Or, a lot of times it's just you don't have, where they're riding, you don't have the opportunity to put a leg out and start kickstarting. So, okay. And yeah, so Scarlett lowered both ends. Yeah. Yeah, there's a point where you can go too low on a motorcycle and it just destroys it. It wrecks it. A lot of times the leverage ratios change on where the suspension starts. So by lowering it, they actually get too stiff, or they kind of pack in there, and then they're at a place in the leverage ratio, depending on the bike, where it becomes way too soft and it really just starts blowing through. You've lost the good part of the stroke that holds it up. But yeah, lowering is a common thing. Let's see. Pretty crazy seeing the 450F in Endurocross. Interesting how the beginning of Endurocross, most guys were using 4 strokes, all 2-stroke now, and now the 4 strokes are coming back in the mix. I love both. Yeah, the interesting thing about the 4 strokes is it kind of depends on the size of the Endurocross courses, is you don't have to shift on a 4-stroke, where a lot of times on the 2-stroke you have to shift. You can run the whole course in a single gear in the 4-stroke, and that is really advantageous, where a lot of times in the 2 strokes they have to shift. and some of the ways that they're doing some of the obstacles, the 4-stroke has just better, better snap at lots of different RPMs. With a 2-stroke, the snap is only in a certain area. So some of these things they're jumping. And then the 4-stroke is heavier and more stable, so they're able to plow through things a little bit back. Oh, the head shaking 500. Sorry, the 3 lines down from top. Okay, so that's way too far down. And a 200-pound rider. Okay, so I thought he was going to be lighter, and that one line might have been enough to make that kind of a change. But at 200 pounds, you're probably in the area where the stock spring can handle it. The rear springs, both springs can handle a 200-pound rider. I know because I'm 200 pounds lately. Actually, I'm a little less lately, but most of the time lately I've been 200, and I'm riding on stock springs on a lot of my bikes. A lot of them I'm up 1 spring rate, so it just sort of depends on the particular bike. So at 200 pounds, you should be able to get the spring preload right and stuff. And try just 1 or 2 millimeters, not 15. How many would 3 lines be? Each line is like 5, 4. I don't know, 4 millimeters. Don't know. I have to check my math. But that would be like 10 to 12 millimeters. That's a lot, I think. Okay, back to some questions. So on the YouTubes, you guys wonder why we don't answer all your questions. Well, I do. I go to the YouTubes and you have a question and I answer it. And JRD1207 on our KTM 450 off-road setup tips. This is a 2023 KTM 450 XCF. He says, would you recommend the 23 chassis or the previous chassis for sand dune riding? And he weighs 140 pounds. He says, thank you. And I wish he would be on the show, but of course he's not, I'm sure. I mean, a guy that goes to the sand dunes, doesn't matter. You can ride anything in the sand dunes. It doesn't matter. Yeah, especially if you put a paddle tire on it. It doesn't matter. Yeah, dunes. You can ride anything in the sand dunes. I don't run a paddle tire. I just ride a stock KTM 500 around. Yes, sometimes even with the reed valves in. It's fine. Dad's data, I don't know, Fraz or something says, I wish he'd say bless you because I got my allergies, huh, Cat? Yeah, bless me. Sneezing attack. Oh, that sounded wonderful. That'll make the highlight reel. Let's see. He says, never stop racing these cheaper dual sports. People highly underestimate this bike. And he's talking about you don't need a $12,000 race bike to compete. They overestimate their skill and need for a fast and expensive bike. Yeah. Since like somebody accused me of liking all these weird bikes and trying all this weird stuff. I was once called the fastest slow bike rider in the world. And I learned by riding slower bikes, I learned how to be a better rider. I learned how to hold the throttle on longer. I learned how to be better on the brakes because most people do not even come close to maximizing their brakes. They're all worried about making their bike go faster. If you learn how to use the brakes, that's a huge advantage and you can pass people there quite easily. Bo Purnick says, this content is gold. Thanks for doing this test. I'll try to pass that along to Trevor, but he doesn't pay attention to me anymore. So someone said, my name is Danny. I'm trying to find the bar clamps you guys used on the Ride Engineering Shippo clamps in order to run the precision concepts or the precision steering damper. And this is Danny. And I said, ask Trevor Hunter because he built that. Because I would have put a Scott steering stable on the bike personally. I have used all the different stabilizers, and by far and away, I feel that the Scott's works the best for what I want. If you look at, well, that one doesn't have one. My 450 does, but that has one. That has one. Almost every bike in here has a Scott's damper on it. And the good thing is usually They have a very easy, accessible. Their website is amazing for finding what clamps and stuff work with the Scott Stamper. So Trevor suggests that you got to contact somebody else, Todd Davis, who does testing, and we think it was an X-Trig PDHS bar mounts. So if you have a beta and you want to put that damper on it, I guess you could do those things. Let's see. XR150L full bike test is literally only thing missing is I wish this bike had a kickstart like the CT125. I never needed a kickstart. And that bike, you could probably bump start it pretty easy, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm not really missing kickstarts on any bike anymore as I look at the Husabergs that need them because they won't start on their own. Let's see. On our 2026 YZ250 FX first impression, Dana Russell says, I had a WR400 and a WR450 and always wished they were 6-speeds. That thing sure hauls ass in 6th gear. So that's the way the video starts. Yeah, as far as 5-speeds go, and yeah, this show is sponsored by Yamaha, so I never say anything bad about Yamahas, just make that completely clear. But I think a 6-speed would be better. But as far as 5-speeds go, they have the best 5-speed transmission. That in the WR450 and the 450 FX, I think that 5-speed is a home run as far as a 5-speed goes. I've said this forever. They've done a great job at it. The gaps aren't bad. First gear is low enough. 5th gear is fast enough. And for your application, you could change the gearing if need be. If you want an extreme enduro kind of thing, you just go, add a couple teeth to the rear or go down one on the front. If you want a desert racing bike, take a couple teeth off and it'll do all the things. But it would be nice to have a 6-speed. So I do really like the 6-speed transmissions in my KTMs. Let's see. On our AJP PR7 adventure bike says, who in the U.S. carries the bike? I live in Fla, which I think you got Florida. You just got sick of typing. So it's, what's the name of the importer? Well, what I would do, instead of typing in and asking a video, I would just go and type in AJP in the United States, and it's going to come up. It's a, I used to know the name of the company. They're doing Fantic now. They do AJP. Some of the new AJPs look really nice. They did some graphics and stuff to them, and those things look really cool. I keep forgetting about that bike. That was a nice bike. I was really surprised by it. But yeah, they do the rejues. I don't know, the older gases. So those are available. Let's see. And then Stinky Yamalinky says, I don't think the current I don't think the current YZ250F or FX will pass sound check at events like Idaho City 100. If anyone knows, I'm all ears. Well, I know they pass sound because I put an FMFQ on mine, and then they will pass sound check. But I'll tell you, if you drill holes in your airbox cover, it's probably going to be problematic, and because a lot of the noise is emulating from the airbox on those particular bikes. But yeah, I know that the Q mufflers will work just fine for that. So probably can't hear me because you're probably not watching the show, although 55 million other people are right now. And then how does a 2026 CR450 RX compared to a 2007 CR450R? It's one of our videos up on Dirt Bike Test. I just sold my 97 KX125 and bought an 07 CR450R from my cuz Goonie. Do a full engine rebuild soon, have restyle plastics and ordered with black wheels. It will be a fun bike when finished. And you're going to have to change your screen name from 2-stroke 1988 to 4-stroke, since you're a year off, 08. Yeah, then you'll be a little more accurate, dude. Awesome. Gonna get his stuff. And then the DC Ferg. This bear goes without bearing. I should say he did a little education for us last week on the show, so I'm going to repeat it. He says a motor is powered by electricity and an engine is powered by combustion fuel. Just so you know. So I'm pretty sure I'll start talking about the motors on bikes again, because I'm not that smart. I just ride motorcycles. Let's see. Got some more questions over here. Let's see. We got a salute from San Felipe Bob, and he says, Jimmy's class taught me all about braking. Not only am I a safer rider, I am also much faster or slower, he says. That's true. Okay, here we go. Fact, I remember a guy named Walter placing top 5 at the Off-Road National in Oregon on a TTR 225, and this was back in 2001 to 2005 area. So, yeah, it's amazing how much motorcycles, motorcycle racing is off-road is not about the bike. I mean, as much as we like to make it about the bike, there's a lot of will and desire and skill that can overcome. You can put a really good rider on a really bad bike, and you would be surprised at what the results. And Jamie Livingston's got the goodies for the bike with his Rooster Ending windows. Thank you, Taco Moto, for supporting Rooster Endo that we should have had tonight, but the email came to the wrong email address. So if you want to submit for Taco Moto's Rooster Endo, that's tacomoto.co. Go to their website and look at all the stuff, and then go, man, I could get a $100 gift certificate from these guys. Send a picture of your bike, a nice picture, shows the stuff. Tell us a little bit about your bike, and we will discuss it on the show. Lucas Harrer, Luke S. Hearer. Luke S. Hearer. Not sure if you're familiar with YZ250s. Yes, I am. But what is your personal opinion on making their front brakes feeling more like an Austrian bike? That's a good question. So he wants a stronger, more bitey front brake. And I can see that. So first of all, make sure that you're dealing with, because you talk YZ250, they could be 10 years old and they're still the same as the current ones. So sometimes people are asking this question and their stuff is just kind of worn out. So make sure everything's up to spec. So make sure your brake pads are up to spec. Make sure, like we talked about earlier about the fluid, make sure your fluid's good. Make sure your rotor is good. My first go-to, probably the easiest, would be go to a braided steel line. And some years Yamaha's had them, and I don't know if they switched away, but a good quality braided steel line will give you a little bit more of that feel initially. If everything stays the same, that would be like the first thing to get that kind of more aggressive feel. This next thing, the bugs are coming out. There's temperatures out here making the bugs wake up. The second thing to do is, I have been a big fan of G brakes, which is formerly Galfer brakes, but G brakes rotors, and they have a few different brake pads, and they have a more aggressive brake pad that will kind of bump that up. I don't like the more aggressive one. I like the one that's kind of more, it's more for feel. When properly broken in, I think it's really good, but those have been good to me in the past. And the other thing you can do is you can try going to a larger rotor. That is that would be the kind of the just jump off the deep end way to do it. So a larger rotor will definitely give you more power, and then also figuring out how to, just how to get the right, you could do master cylinder swaps for sure. You could go to the Brembo master cylinder on the Nissan lower part. So I've seen people do that before. So there's a lot of different ways to skin that cat. Hopefully that answered your question. But the braided steel line, I think, makes a good impression. I can look in this, see what the damn line is. I should. Yeah, it's a more rubbery line. Yep, that's what you do. Go to the that'll give you the feel you're looking for. And some people aren't big fans of the Yamaha lever shape and stuff as well. So sometimes even just switching the lever that puts it in a different kind of position to engage the, it changes the leverage ratio at the lever. That can help also, some different levers. You'd have to do some research on which one does what, but that's like CPD USA is the AJP importer. Thank you, Mark Callan. That's awesome. I appreciate the help because I did 9 out of 10 without going the reference manual, and you helped me out there. So thanks a lot. San Felipe Bob is putting my resume out there. Yeah. I beat him because I was on the brakes better. It was, like I said, washed up motorcycle racer. Okay, back into the chats here. We got all that stuff. Some interesting things that I also saw on the inner books, whatever the face webs. Somebody wanted to know what direction to put in the piston lock, they called it. So if you're calling it the piston lock, he's talking about the circlip, by the way. This is a good question for you to ask. And the first thing is install it properly, and it probably really doesn't matter which direction or where it's orientated. I know a lot of mechanics, they like to put it at the top or at the bottom and stuff, but if it's properly indexed, you're not going to have to worry about it. Indexed in the groove, not necessarily where the rotation is. Be careful you don't bend them when you put them in. Be careful that you do get them indexed in there properly. They're in their ringland. And if the piston has an opening where you can kind of go in, like for instance, and well, here's what I can do because I'm in the shop. I can show you this. I can go to this right here. I can grab a piston right here. Look, I have a piston. This piston got hot. So what we're talking about here, I got to remember where it is. What we're talking about here is the circlip that goes inside of here. Listen to this sucker. So we're talking about getting that circlip inside of here, which is tricky, and it requires, a good twist of the wrist to get that sucker in there. You don't want to bend it. You want to make sure it lands in the groove. But this groove right here, you would not want the opening to be in this groove or this groove. I would prefer that opening is encased inside of here. So on this particular piston, I would have the circlip orientated kind of like you can see in here. If you can see this, I don't know if you can or not, but I'm going to grab a screwdriver here and show you. I'll get it centered here. Here we go. So this circlip is still installed, and the opening is up here on the top. So not here, but up here. And I'm trying to remember what this piston came out of. It had a I think this was out of one of my 300s. Oh yeah, this was the one that it overheated. I remember this. So it got really, really hot. That's why it's you can see it's baked itself. But I installed this and never took this out, but you can see where the groove is. So it's up here. So by example, here's another piston. This is also a 50R piston, and where's the groove here? This one is down on the bottom. Is where the opening is. But here's the thing, and it's just past that, and I don't recall exactly. What's that one? Is that out of beta? I don't know. Can't remember. Too many. You want to see a 130-hour piston? And the circlips are out of that one, so we can't examine that. So there we go. Ask and you shall get an answer. So again, Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. This is the show where we answer questions, and it says somebody says scroll up. Ace says scroll up and answer my previous question. Let's see. Tim says nice shirt, and it says Jimmy is looking good. That's right. This is an Inside Line Moto shirt that Tim got me at some point or another. Inside Line Moto. If you need motorcycle service down in the Orange County area, great guys. Long time racers and stuff. Let's see. Where is Ace's question that I missed? My stream is perfect. I have new internets in here. Thank you, Jeremy. Scroll up, answer my previous question. I can't see it. Let's see. Okay. How far is that? Yeah. I'm getting confused. Is that circlip the one that secures the piston return spring on the 3-stroke engines? No, that's different, okay? So the piston return spring, people get really confused about this. This is bullshit. The piston return spring, everybody thinks it's on the bottom of the piston and it's hooked up to the circlip or the wrist pin. They think it's on the wrist pin and it's up there. But in reality, on the 3-stroke, it's a big spring that's inside the cylinder and it gets compressed up and it pushes the piston back down, kind of like in a master cylinder, like we talked about earlier. Okay, time for a little sip. Okay, I'm getting sick of talking. So the other thing I saw on the internets, somebody showed a picture of a piston that looked just like a piston that I said, and this is interesting. It was posted on the KTM Gas Gasket Husky 4-stroke Enduro Talk. He said, I took off my exhaust today to change the O-rings. How bad is this? It's time for a new piston with a question mark. This is a 2-stroke, by the way. Well, good on you for asking that in the 4-stroke group, because these guys don't know anything. And I mean, I guess they don't. I guess they do. I don't know. But yeah, when you see the scars inside there, is it time to change it? What you should probably do is pull that piston down a little bit farther and look at the back side of the cylinder and see if you have some matching marks there. Because sometimes a few on the front, it's not too bad. And really more concerned with how your rings are looking. So he's showing a picture of just the lower part of the skirt. It's more problematic how the rings, is it time? I mean, it really depends. It's going to run for a little while if you want to. You can still run it. It's probably been running for a while there too. I wonder what the comments were. I didn't bother to dive this deep into it. Oh, here we go. So now they're telling him if it's a TBI, he should change to TBI or TPI. He should they say that it's bad. I just said it was not bad, not that bad. You wouldn't want advice from someone who didn't know it was a 2-stroke. Let's see. Replace it. I see a lot of the 2-stroke bikes this fairly early. They seem to run great, but since it's a 4-stroke group, I think you might have an answer. So, yeah. Yep, that's what you get, Jacob. Post to the 4-stroke group about your 2-stroke, and I can hardly ever get advice. Anyways, couple other things. And the good thing is sometimes you can, drop into these groups and get really good advice, but you've got to be kind of careful about where you're getting it from. Like the guy putting the master link on clip on backwards after showing you how to do something. Someone else was putting an impeller seal on a KTM 500, and he wanted to know, like, if it was supposed to be flush, or if it's, how can I tell if it's bottomed out? He doesn't want to damage it. It's not flushed currently and all that stuff. So the best thing to do is before you take it apart, look at it, take a picture. But most of the time, the seals will either A, bottom out, or B, when you push them with a nice bearing pusher or whatever you're pushing in, when it gets flush with the case, that's the right depth. Sometimes you can also look at the index where the seals have been running on the shafts and different things to help you out, to give you an idea. And I've had on some old bikes, maybe a Husaberg back there, that you can't get parts for, and you have the seal that was maybe a little too hard for the shaft, counter shaft weights on Husabergs. I will actually offset the seal a little bit so that it's not riding in the groove anymore. So this is something you can do. So sometimes it's not as important as you would think, as long as it's doing its sealing job. So just something to kind of know there. Not the perfect fix, but in some situations, yeah, that's kind of where you are. That's what you're stuck with. So what else? What's going on in Dirt Bike Test? You could see our 2026 Kawasaki KX450X impression. We're building a vet rider's dream dual sport bike. It's only $20,000. So you can go there and drool. Thanks to Jay Clark for getting that for us. We did a Gas 300 EX build. Looks like another Jay Clark bike as well. So Trevor is not doing much work. He's just having someone else build bikes for him so he can go ride small dual sport bikes and then be too polite to old men that are beating him. So that's what's over there at dirtbiketest.com. I should actually probably put my video up there, but that would require work. Just like I should edit the last 2 episodes of this show, but I was busy going riding and stuff like that. So somebody says, cheers, Jimbo. And Ace says, since you're on the topic, name top 3 multi-dictionary rider still living and riding for both off-road and road racing. Also, shout out to all those racing the Sonora Rally and Portugal rallies. Signed up for the Nora 1000 today. Yeah, sign up for the Nora 1000 today. I forgot to say that. You should sign up for the Nora 1000 today. That would, if we get enough riders, that way we get to have a Nora. It's not the Nora 1000. It's called Nora's Baja because it's more than 1,000 miles. It's a 6-day stage rally in Mexico. So hopefully we get more riders to sign up so we can do the 10-day one next year. So that bucket list thing that you wanted to do, you better do it this year because I'm sure they'll have motorcycles. It just may not be on its own separate course, and all the stuff that we do to make it better and safer, that stuff might go away because they're not a charity organization for motorcycle racers. Okay. I think we've done pretty good tonight. I think I don't have any other questions on the thing. I think the Ace, I got it. The 3rd time's a charm. Roosterendo. I will get to yours next week because I can't load it in while I'm actually running the show. Delaney Drive Components. When our very first sponsor, they're sending me some Yamaha sprockets because I want super trick sprockets on my Yamahas. Have them on all. And the crazy thing, I've never worn out any of my DDC sprockets in all the years, all the riding done. I've never worn them out. I've gone through 2 and 3 chains, and the sprockets are still good. And so, anyways, let's see. I've got to get some chains, speaking of that. So I'm going to check out. So go to ddcracing.net and you can get some chains and sprockets like Jimmy does. Awesome. So what other in things that come through my inbox? Someone wanted Mid Solar Ansoner says, hey, following up on my message to you about YouTube thumbnails. I help you with thumbnails. So Hull. He's been checking back on me. Well, I could get AI to do that too, bud. I could probably do better thumbnails if I wanted to also, but that would require extra work. Michael Thomas, you are the winner from last week's Takamoto Rooster Endo, and I will let you know how to do it because I haven't been monitoring this email. But you're all in line. You're good. I'll get that handled maybe tomorrow. And I think that's it. Oh, a collab invitation. I can get a $799 Rebecca from Ansel wants to give me the MT500 for globally exclusive motorsports diagnostics, game-changing power sports industry things. Okay, I'll check back. Let's see. If you're share your preference, provide your vehicle, finalize your collaboration details. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Look at you. Ooh, he's kind of a cutie. Maybe I'll have to collaborate. Other than that, kids, I think that's all I've got. I'll do one last peruse through the questions. Random. Trent Zimmerman says, in a past episode, you mentioned on how a 4-stroke, you shouldn't need to touch the throttle on start. And in 2 strokes, you need to blip a little. Why is that? And let's say that both are EFI. So that's actually a really good question. So in EFI, you shouldn't need to touch the throttle at all. And I was kind of talking about, this is back in carbureted. We were talking carbureted, I'm pretty sure. On the 4-stroke, if you have to touch the throttle to get it to start, generally that's indication of something not being right in your idle adjustment, or there's something wrong, tight intake valves, different things like that. And a lot of times when we went to pumper carbs, touching the throttle would flood the engine. Okay, so sometimes you would use the pumper as a, quote, choke by squirting a little extra gas in there, and then you could start it without the choke. On 2 strokes, it's because I think, and this is me kind of theorizing because I haven't really thought about this, but I'm thinking about it right now. On 2 strokes, I think you're able to kick it so that it goes past an idle speed. And in the beginning, with the slide shut down, there's more of a suction across the jets, but then it might actually need to be leaned out just a tad, and that's why you would kind of turn the throttle, because 2 strokes did not have pumper carbs. On an EFI bike, I don't know why you would have to turn it, because ideally it should be perfect for whatever RPM that you are turning. Of note, every bike, every system has a characteristic. Some bikes don't start that well. Some brands don't really have it down exactly right. I would say, but they're kind of a sponsor of the show, and if there's one thing Yamaha you could improve is the restarting when the bikes are hot on the fuel injected 4 strokes. Just saying. Oh, and it'd be so nice if the 2 strokes had electric start too, by the way, and fuel injection. I couldn't think. So not only is Cody Webb trying to get that stuff, maybe Jimmy is too. Yamaha, great partner of this show, answering your questions. So, but I found there's some of my bikes, especially some of my older KTM 350s, that if I crack the throttle like a 1/16 of a turn, push the starter and roll the throttle back off, they start right up. And there's other bikes, if I start it and push it, I just roll the throttle just a little bit, they start up. But if I do the opposite, they won't start. And another thing is, on some bikes, I've noticed if you crack the throttle just a hair and then don't move it and then push the start button, they start right up. That's kind of my trick with the Yamahas, is to just, when I just jump on the starter, it doesn't start, I take it and I crack it maybe a half a millimeter, just so little. If I crack it and hold it there, it'll start right up. So don't know why. And I don't want to run my idle up any higher than I currently have it to simulate that thing. I should try that sometime. Just try to run the idle up a little bit and see if they start a little bit better. because I do like a low idle on a 4-stroke. I really do. Beam Echo has another question. Okay, you better get your question up right now because I'm getting ready to shut the show down. Can a Beta 390 do the Nora? Or I need a 450 or a 500? No, a Beta 390 can absolutely do the Nora. We had a guy do the Nora on a Montesa 360, I believe it was, last year. And the year before, some guy did it on an old vintage, a super old vintage Triumph. Guys have done the Nora they tried it on Vespas. So a 390 would be fine. I don't see, if you're happy riding that 390, I don't think you need a big, fast, you don't need to have a big, fast bike. Doesn't hurt sometimes, but then there's other times that 390 is going to be plenty of bike, plenty of fun. Then, ideally it's built for a 450 or a 500. That would be the ideal bike. But that's not to say that there are guys that are doing it on 302 strokes. We had a couple 250Fs do it a few years back. But most of the bikes are, the KTM Husky 500s, typical Honda 450 X's. Definitely a few of those. Tim Morton runs a few of those and stuff like that. So, yeah, we had a Ducati 900 finished second overall 2 years ago. So you could do it on that. Trying to get Johnny Campbell to come and do it on his Honda Transalp. Trying to get him. Big name, hard to get those guys. So okay, that's all of the questions answered, all of the information passed along, and then I think we're all good. Okay. So again, thanks to companies like Fasst Company for making the flex handlebars that allow me to ride. Oh, I need to get some for my new mountain bike. Some of the cat sitting on the Husaberg, like I told her, good cat. She's absorbing power right now. Really, really good for my cat. The Husaberg's calm kitties. I'm going to go sneeze a couple times from all the pollen that's in the air and hopefully go riding tomorrow. And we'll see you on the next show. If there's something you want us to talk about, send an email to Jimmy@DirtBikeTest. We can do that. If there's people you would like to see on the show, guests, stuff like that, send me an email. And if you maybe want a discount code or two, send me an email and tell me what you're looking for. Tell them how you heard about us on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. And with that, we will see you on the trail, everybody. Cheers. That'll make this.